Welcome to What Self-Care Looks Like. I'm your host, Brittany Elliott. It may be hard to hear, but self-care is not spa days, a weekend getaway, or brunch with your bestie. True self-care is the practice of protecting your well-being and happiness, and it lives within your daily routine. I'm a self-care and mom life coach here to help you prioritize your needs and practice self-care in a meaningful way so you can reclaim joy in your motherhood experience. Let's get back to you. Hey, welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. I am Brittany Elliott. Welcome to season 19. I'm excited to be back from a little break. And today I want to talk about motherhood, its challenges, why it's hard, and why it isn't. And I recovered from what I call a shattered sense of self back in 2020. And so I was very overwhelmed and exhausted. I had a lot of resentment toward my husband at the time. I really wasn't getting the hang of motherhood. I didn't feel like myself. I didn't look like myself. I wasn't doing anything that really brought me joy beyond creating a relationship with my daughter. Otherwise, everything just felt like such obligation and so burdensome. And I would go to work as an escape, but everything at work was just metrics driven. And then it was just the job I had at the time was just, it was a tougher work environment as far as what the job entailed. And I was doing all that and trying to meet all these quotas, all while taking extra breaks to go pump. And it was a lot on me and my mental capacity. Since then, since I recovered from that though, I have really looked at motherhood differently, and I've looked at my marriage differently. I just have a changed perspective, and it's not in a bad way at all. It has made me hypersensitive to how other women talk about motherhood, how other women talk about their relationships with their spouses, the way other women talk about work. And so in 2021, I started creating content around changing your approach to motherhood. And really, my mission became to help working moms, especially, prioritize their needs and practice self care in a meaningful way so that they could reclaim joy in their motherhood experience. And that's what I've been doing for these past several years. And so from that came, first it started with just coaching, and it was primarily group coaching and then different workshops. Started doing partnerships with local organizations. Then that went with me. I started doing this podcast. Then eventually I wrote the book. And there's just, all these great things that are happening from that. And the farther away I get from the experience I had in 2020 with the shattered sense of self, it's like the more sensitive I get to the mismanagement of people's motherhood journeys. And so this episode is really about, I hope, I can help you reframe your mind about the difference between a challenge in life and a challenge in motherhood, because there are a lot of challenges I hear women talk about that don't have anything to do with motherhood. It's not a motherhood thing. It's just life. Some of it is really just adulting. And so hopefully by the end of this, you feel that you can take on a different approach to motherhood, make an attempt to try a new approach to motherhood so that you don't feel as overwhelmed by motherhood itself. Or this at least opens your eyes to something different. And I'm just going to work down a list of things that I hear women say about what's so challenging about motherhood. One of them, since I work with working moms is working a full-time job. And people talk about how working a full-time job is so hard. How am I supposed to do this, work full-time, and balance everything else? This makes motherhood hard. Well, working a full-time job is not motherhood. That's employment, separate. Trying to juggle a career and caregiving at the same time when you lack flexibility at work, or when you don't have the support that you need at work, when you're not making enough money at work, that definitely is overwhelming. And that work stress is not motherhood. Next one I hear a lot are the household chores. So cooking, cleaning, laundry, these are just shared household tasks. They're not mom duties. They are adult duties and the able-bodied people in your home's duties. And I probably talked about this in like earlier on seasons of the podcast. So probably like 2021, where I talked about how to better um, kind of separate or share the household tasks. And of course, if you are a single mom, you're like not partnered, you're living on your own with your kids, it's going to look different. We'll have to prioritize you like outsourcing a lot of that work, leaning on your village and things like that. I get it. That is 100% true. And at the same time, that's still not a mom duty. That's still not a mom thing. They become very stressful when we think that to be a good mom, I have to take care of the entire house. The house needs to be spotless. And when you're missing the mark on that, instead of you saying, I'm struggling with household management, you start saying, I'm a bad mom, when those two are not actually the same thing. They are different. And I will tell you that out of my husband and I am the messier person. And it got to the point in our house that I was just walking around and just seeing things that I knew were just unruly. And I was just like, how am I going to be able to get to all this? I just can't do it. And a lot of things have changed in my husband and I's schedule. And so we really have been just not in the home as much as we would like to be in general, let alone to be in the house more often to clean. So I was just like, hey, I want to use some of our budget, add a line item for house cleaning. And so I did it for the first time um, like this week. And it was so nice to just come home and the house be clean, like those little dust bunnies that I've been looking at that I just couldn't create the time to get to, just have all that taken care of. I didn't have them do our bedroom or my daughter's bedroom, but they did every other room in the house, the guest room, all the bathrooms, kitchen, dining room, my office, the living room, the basement. They cleaned my stove in the kitchen. They did all that stuff. And so I only had to focus on getting together the bedroom and my daughter's room. And it was just so nice that I just had this relief of just like, oh, I only have to do these two things. My husband only has to focus on our bedroom. My daughter just has to do however she does to pick up things in her room, and I just have to come behind her and get it really organized and wipe down a few things. Now, that took me years to get to. I would not have been able to afford back in 2021 to do that, but I knew then that it's something that I wanted to get to. And that's something that I work with in one-on-one coaching with my clients, is to, I hate to be like my clients, it seems like weird, but I guess that's what you are. Um, that's what we do to really build out a plan for the things that maybe you don't have access to now, but you really want to have access to. How can we fit that in? So it's not just about building your roadmap back to you that looks like 6 months down the line, a year down the line, but even just like overall, what aligns with your vision for your life and how can we get you there? If you're thinking about your future self and you say, my future self is a type of woman who has a house cleaner come in, a type of woman who works closer to home so she can walk to work or bike to work or something like that. Just there are so many things that may feel more like you, more aligned with how you want to live with your life, but you can't do it right now. It's really great to sit with someone one-on-one and say, okay, so these are the things that future you does. And so here are the things that present you needs to do to be able to do that in the future. So that's very helpful. Another common complaint is the mental load of just managing a home, and really not just your home, but the mental load of managing your life. So doctor's appointments, school emails, play dates, grocery lists, birthday gifts, just who's outgrown what. Just even basic shopping, car insurance, the financial planning, the budgeting. These really are admin tasks, and I talk about the mental load a lot because the mental load is one thing that I believe is the Achilles heel for us moms. It is really taking us out constantly because we just have this never ending to-do list. It's all the invisible labor that we are doing behind the scenes. We're not really getting credit for it. And we get overwhelmed with all of the logistics that we are juggling. And that's why I offer the mental load audit, which is different from one-on-one coaching because it's self-paced. It's an auditing tool checklist plus like a walkthrough guided video workshop to take you through the checklist so that you can maximize the use of it. The reason why we don't really do that in a one-on-one coaching session is because it may take you days or weeks even to go through your entire mental load and know, okay, what is all on my mind? Who is taking the lead on all of these tasks? So once you do the mental load audit, in the workshop, which that's just $15 on my website. Once you do that, you do have an option to do a one-on-one session that's only about the mental load, which is completely different from coaching, where we're actually building your map and building that map back to you with all of your action items and steps. That's more of a long-term relationship that we're building together for you to have that long-term support. The mental load reset is really just kind of like a one-time session that we have, and it's 100% focused on just the mental load. And while all of these tasks, all of these to-dos, all of these thoughts, they can be a part of the motherhood role, but they are not the core of motherhood. So be mindful of when you're feeling challenged in motherhood and you start pointing to what's making motherhood so hard today. If you're pointing to chores or your job or the mental load, do not make the blanket statement that motherhood is hard because I have to work and I have to manage my home and I have to schedule the logistics of my life. That is life. You would have to do that whether you had children or not. Would it look different? Absolutely it would. However, when we start throwing all this thing into one bucket and then you're looking around wondering why you are not enjoying the motherhood experience, it's because you have put all these things that have nothing to do with motherhood in this one bucket. And now you coming in and seeing dust on the fan blades make you completely like feel deflated in motherhood when that has nothing to do with just what motherhood is. Another common complaint is lack of partner support. So if you're partnered and they're not helping you, they're not carrying their own weight, they are not supporting you, that is a relationship issue. That is not a motherhood issue. We need to address that differently. If you feel like you are a solo parent when you are not supposed to be, as in you are in a relationship currently and that person is just choosing not to help, the partnership is imbalance, not parenthood. It's just your partnership. And had you not had the extra layer of children, that imbalance probably still would be there. You would just notice it in other ways. So, one benefit to the mental load audit is that it's a really great tool for couples to do together, because you can see who's thinking about what and when, who's not thinking about what and when and why, and be able to actually make all the things that, if you are carrying more of the load of the house, you can make that visible to your partner. And a lot of it has to do with the expectations that we are putting on our partners at the time. For example, a military wife, she's typically not going, this is just in my experience with women I've worked with, doesn't have the same relationship complaints that a woman who lives in the home and is with her husband all the time has when it comes to a lack of partner support. It's going to look different, because a military spouse whose husband is deployed, you don't have the expectation for them to be there doing X, Y, and Z because they're deployed. It comes up when they usually come back home from deployment. If they are not being an active participant in the home, now then you are bringing up an issue with partnership, or you have a hard time acclimating to them being back home because you've been doing everything yourself. You're like, oh, I forget to bring my partner into it. So that is an illustration to, or an example of, is really your mindset and really what you're expecting your partner to do, and you having conversations with them so they know what the expectations are, and see how you can meet in the middle, because not one person should be driving the relationship. It's a partnership. It's not going to be 50-50 every time. It's not going to look like that, but you should definitely be able to hold your partner accountable if that's always what your expectation was. Now, if you got into a marriage with traditional gender roles where you knew from the beginning that everything was going to be put on you and your husband was not going to want to participate, and now maybe you're trying to rewrite the agreement with your spouse, that is a conversation that you have to have with them to see what adjustments can be made. Because I feel that if you are married to someone and you two respect each other, you two appreciate each other, and you two love each other, then that other person is going to be willing to make adjustments to make you more comfortable. It may not look exactly the way that you want it to look. That person may have boundaries, you may have boundaries, but that's just relationships, and you're going to have to work it out. I'm not the person who would ever say to you, oh, your husband doesn't help, it's time to leave him. No, it's just time for a conversation and to see what it is. Did you change? Did they change? Did nobody change? And things just got harder and he didn't notice, but you notice? That's why we have to have a conversation. But again, that's not motherhood. That's your relationship. Another challenge I hear about is that you have no time for yourself. Me, as someone who recovered from a shattered sense of self, where I felt like I didn't have any time to do anything else that wasn't related to my child, I will say that that is 100% a boundary issue. It is not a motherhood issue. I mean, I know women who had children, like birth children, who had special needs from the beginning, like had your child, they were born, and then had to go right into heart surgery type of things. Just so many very stressful situations to be in, especially as you're entering motherhood, for the first time. And they were still able to make time for themselves to recharge so that they can come back to their child who really, really needed them in an even grander way. They came back to those children and were recharged because they took time for themselves. So if you think that motherhood requires self-abandonment or some type of martyrdom, you need to work on your mindset for that. Because when you don't protect space for yourself, it's going to start feeling like that. It's going to start to feel like you have no place in your life anymore because you're a mom now. And you do not have to lose yourself to be a good mom. Two more. The other one is the pressure to do it all right. So it's like, how am I supposed to do all this and do all that and, still jump into bed with my husband, still show up and be great at work, still be in the PTA, still do this, and more. So it's just like this idea of just perfect meals and Pinterest boards, and your kid has to be hitting every developmental milestone at the time that the parenting book says. That's more like societal pressure and comparison, and it's really been exacerbated by social media and the fact that you can see so much. And I will tell you, if you have time to scroll on social media for hours, you definitely have time to do something for yourself that's going to energize you and not drop you into a bucket of comparison or um, self-deprivation, or just being being mean to yourself and not speaking kindly to yourself. So if you are feeling the pressure to do it all, you need to address why you are feeling that way, which again, that's not motherhood. That's a how you feel about motherhood. That's a what you think motherhood should be, instead of you determining what motherhood actually is to you and for you and the type of mother you would like to be. And again, one-on-one coaching comes in very well for that, because if motherhood doesn't look how you would like it to look right now, but you're like, how do I get there? You need somebody to be walking beside you, helping you build out the plan so that you can get where you want to go. None of this is going to be an overnight fix. Again, I recovered from my shattered sense of self in 2020. Years ago is when I would really say, like, I'm recovered from this. I am now focusing on prioritizing my needs and practicing self-care in a practical way. And me having that in mind over these years, things are continuously changing because the needs of my daughter are changing. Things are changing in my husband and I's schedules. Things are changing for us at work. We are getting older. Just so many things are changing, but still at the core, I'm still always focused on how can I feel my best? How can I feel the most like me? What can I do for me to carve out the space for myself so that I can show up for all the people who need me and for all the things that I want to do as well? And the last one that I'll mention is feeling invisible or feeling lost, which I've referenced a couple of times. And that comes from role confusion, identity loss, um, and just really what you think it means to be a good mom. It comes from that. And it's not the relationship with your child that's draining you. It's what you've been taught that the role should be. So this is just all about shifting. We just have to shift and let go of a lot of the beliefs we have brought into becoming a mom that are really just kind of festering in us. And a lot of it is because we have unrealistic expectations, because unrealistic expectations have been put upon us. We see things happening in other people's lives that look great, that don't fit into your life, but you don't even know the whole story about what you're seeing. And we're not taking the time and forcing ourselves to take the time to ask the hard questions, like, how do I feel about motherhood at all? Because I know plenty of women who are like, I love my kids and I don't like the motherhood experience. And if you feel like that, that's my indication that, like, you're doing it wrong. Your approach to motherhood is wrong, because you think that motherhood encompasses all of those things, which leads me into, what is motherhood anyway? Motherhood is a trifecta, as I've called it in the past episodes. Motherhood is a relationship, it's the connection, it's the love, it's the bond that you have with your child. It's a role, it's your identity as a mom and the expectations around it, and it's responsibility. It's the actual care, the teaching, and the decision making that you do when it comes to raising your child. So anything that's directly, like the direct line to your child, that is motherhood. You are only a mom to your child. That's it. You being their mom only means something to your child. That is the relationship. It's you and your child. You're their mom. To everybody else, and I hate to say it, No one else cares that you're a mom. And probably no one else should, because it has nothing really to do with them that you are a mom beyond you going to work and setting your boundaries accordingly, because you know that you need to be somewhere every day because you have a commitment, and that commitment has to do with your child. But walking into work and saying, I can't do that because I'm a mom, that's okay. Okay. Like, that's not, how this works. Or I can't keep my house clean because I'm a mom. What does that have to do with your house? I can't save money because I'm a mom. I can't set boundaries because I'm a mom. What does any of this have to do with you being a mom? You are a mom to your child, to your children. That is it. So it sounds harsh as it's coming out of my mouth, but this is the conversation I had to have with myself. So I feel comfortable having it with you. Joy comes easily in the relationship part of motherhood, typically, but finding the joy in the role and the responsibility of motherhood definitely requires a new approach to motherhood. But first, you have to really overcome that exhaustion. You have to overcome the resentment. You have to overcome the overwhelm, to overcome the burnout. You have to do all of that first. And that is why I wrote the book, why I wrote What Self Care Looks Like. So if you are like, I'm ready for a new approach to motherhood, but I'm not quite ready to make a commitment into like one-on-one coaching, that seems like too much for me right now, get the book. It's available on Amazon. And the link, of course, is within this episode, but buy the book. Take your time, read through it. It's not a long read. If you're watching on video, you can see it's a pretty thin book. I intentionally made it less than 100 pages so that you can read it and be able to reference it multiple times over your motherhood journey. If you're feeling like, okay, I wanted to really dig into my mental load, get the mental load reset. That includes the audit, which is the checklist, along with the video walkthrough. You can get that on my website. Again, it's $15, self-paced. If you want to level up that commitment to do something one-on-one, when you're like, I don't want to just go full throttle in coaching, but hey, can you just sit with me? Can we think through this together, and specifically on your mental load, how this would look? You could always upgrade to get that. If you're ready to go 100% all in and you're like, Brittany, I'm ready for coaching. Let's do this. Let's commit. We can be road warriors down this path through motherhood. You can do that. Absolutely. I'm here and I'm available. And I think it's important to continue to offer resources at those different levels so I can meet you where you are. I know in 2020, as much as I needed coaching at the time, I wasn't ready to do it because my mind was just racing so much. And I don't think I would have even been a productive client had I been in someone's coaching chair, which for me, like having the book would have really helped. It really, really helped my brain. And so that's part of the reason why I wrote it. It's because I wrote the book that I needed at the time when I was struggling. So I hope that that helps you think of motherhood a little bit differently. Like, motherhood isn't hard. It's all of the other things. Life can be very hard. Life can be a struggle. But there are pockets of your life that really should be joyful and energizing, even in tough times. And you should always be able to hold on to, the relationship that you have with your child as you're raising them as something that feels joyful to you. And if it doesn't, it's time to make a change. So, as always, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. Do something kind for yourself this week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you learned at least one thing you can implement into your daily routine. To connect with me, follow at Back to You in 5 on Instagram. If you're feeling generous, share this episode with a mom you know and subscribe to the show. I appreciate your support. Remember, motherhood is a journey, not a destination. Grow through it and enjoy the view.